Hey, what's up? What's going on, everybody? It's Super Dave back at it again with another episode of the PA Political Revolution podcast. We're over here trying to give you some good political information so you can make up your mind on what's going on with the city. And we just want to keep you informed of everything that's going on. And today we have a recurring special guest. We have former council member Mr. Harold Doucet. Mr. Harold Doucet, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing fine, Dave.
Yes, and the reason why I called you back on here, we haven't heard from you in a while, and we want to go ahead and talk about some of your food for thought. Right? You had some posting some comments posting about some of the duties of the mayor and and this type of form of government, and with this election coming up, I kind of want you to, if you didn't mind, so if you can kind of go over some of the form of government that we have, the duties of the mayor, and what the mayor can and cannot do, and some other things that's kind of going on with this election, sir, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, first I'd like to start with saying that I feel that in order for citizens to make the best choice for a person to be elected to serve as mayor here in the city, they must first understand the job and the duties and responsibilities of the mayor. I think in the past we've had a lot of people vote for the mayor based on popularity or based on them knowing them personally and what friends or someone tell them about that individual. But in essence, you're not having the opportunity to take a look at all of the candidates and understand what do you expect and how should the mayor perform? And in order to do that, you must have an idea on what are the duties and responsibilities of this individual. So before you can understand what is the duties and responsibilities of the mayor, you must first understand our form of government.
Right.
Now, that is very important because in Texas, you have two forms of government. You have one where it's a mayor-council form of government. That is like a mayor of the larger cities like Houston. Those mayors are actually running the city. They make decisions.
Say strong mayor, right?
People. That's a strong mayor. It's referred to as a strong mayor. They hire people, they fire people, they have an administration, a staff, and they make the decisions. They don't have to rely on council, They run the city. They have an 8-to-5 job. They come to work every day, and they get paid a significant amount of money. I don't know exactly how much. It varies from city to city, but
right.
They get paid to run the city on a day-to-day basis. Now, our form of government is what they call a council manager form of government. Now, in that form of government, the mayor is considered a weak mayor. That's the term that is applied. It says a weak mayor.
Right.
The reason they say that because the mayor does not run the city on a day-to-day operation. The mayor does not direct any employee, manager, or staff and give orders to nobody.
Right.
That is strictly and solely responsibility of the city manager. So in the council manager form of government, the council makes all the policies, procedures, ordinance, approve all this, and give directives to the city manager. However, they hire a manager to run the city on a day-to-day operation. And if you go to Article 2, Section 8 of the city charter, it talks about person interfere with personnel matters. And that section is very clear. It states that the manager is the personnel, all the hiring is the sole responsibility of the city manager. Council should not interfere with the hiring, the discipline, or firing of any subordinate to the city manager. Now, who are the subordinates to the city manager? Everybody that works for the city, with the exception of the municipal judge, the city secretary, and the city attorney. Everyone else falls under the supervision and authority of the city manager. And they said that no member of council, and that's to include the mayor, will direct or give orders to any subordinate of the city manager, publicly or privately, individually or collectively. So simply, the mayor is a part-time employee, just like the council members. The mayor doesn't have to be in the office from 8 to 5. The mayor don't have to be in the office every day.
Right.
So that's our form of government. So what we have to do is we have to take a look at and understand that when we elect a mayor, we're not electing somebody to be in the office all the time, to run the city, and if you got something, call the mayor. The mayor is going to get the... No, that's not our form of government.
Right.
A lot of times people say, I got a problem, I'm going to call the mayor. And if they call the manager and they dissatisfied, they say, well, I'm going to call the mayor. Well, if they understand our form of government, they would understand that the mayor, like any other council member, could go and question the city manager. Or we could ask the city manager to do things. However, if the city manager says no, there's nothing that can be done unless the majority of council vote on that particular issue.
Right. I got a quick question, right? I got a question with our type of government, right? We've heard our mayor, right, say on TV and at his recent State of the City that when he first said he was going to do some things on this first 100 days of this election, and also that he says he's going to do what he has an administration. And the form of government we have, is that accurate from the mayor saying that?
Well, when a mayor says that, not any mayor, when a mayor makes that statement in a council manager form of government, that is a mayor that doesn't even understand what form of government that we're in, because the mayor has no authority to do anything unless the majority of council approves it. The mayor does not make decisions. Council is the approving authority. And when I say council, I'm talking about the majority of council.
Right.
Not 3 members, 2 members. You go in there with three council members and get on the city manager and say, look, we want you to do this. If the manager says, well, I don't think that's in the best interest of the city, I'm not going to do it. Then the best they could do is put it on an agenda and bring it before the full council and ask that the council support that issue. And if the council votes the majority, then they will direct the manager to do it.
Right.
So when he says, my administration, he doesn't have an administration. He doesn't even have a secretary alone, because the secretary that takes care of the mayor is the same secretary that takes care of the council. So in essence, that's the council and mayor secretary.
Right.
And because that person is a subordinate to the city manager, actually, she falls under the city manager umbrella. He is the person that hired and fired that secretary. So, you really just have to understand how the government is and what the mayor can and can't do. So when the mayor says, I can't do this or I will do this, That is not going to happen unless the majority of the council says yes. So when we listen to people who are campaigning and running for office and want to be the mayor of this city, if you understand the form of government, if that person says, if I'm elected, I'm going to do this, this, and that, that's not true. Now, if that person says, I will work with the managers, staff, and council to do this, this, and that, that is a true statement. Now you have a person that understands the form of government, and when they're talking to the constituents, to the citizens, they're telling them that if I'm elected, these are things that I'm going to work to try to get accomplished by working in this form of government in the way it should be done. And that is the best way of getting it done. So, when you have a mayor that says, I have an administration, it's pretty far fetched to say that to citizens, because you're telling the citizens, I have an administration. And in turn, you don't have an administration. So, you could consider that an untruth,
Right.
So that's the thing about it. And when candidates are campaigning, what you want to listen to is how they present their platform. If they're presenting that platform on issues that the majority of citizens are concerned with, the next thing you want to know is, what is their solution? How are they going to accomplish this? And if they're saying that they're going to work with council and managers to pass a bond to get money to do this, that's a person that understands the form of government, understands how to get things done, and they're telling the citizens, this is what I do if I'm elected. Now, when we're looking at the incompetent mayor, when the mayor tells you anything, you have to first understand he's been in there for 3 years now. You should understand what he has worked and done and what he has accomplished. And when the current mayor says, my administration did this, basically what he's saying is, we ain't done nothing because he doesn't have administration.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Now, the second thing, if the mayor says, during my term, council was able to do this, council was able to build this, council was able to pass a bill for this. Well, that's what council did.
Right.
But that mayor was part of the council. Now, if the mayor was the person that brought up the issue to the council to go and get this bond, then the mayor can say, I was integral in presenting to council and getting council to approve us getting a $50 million bond. So now the mayor is actually responsible if he brought it to the council. If he presented to council, then actually, although council approved it, it was his idea to bring it to council. So that's what you can give the mayor credit for doing. When you talk about issues, if you want to know what role the mayor played, all you have to do is look at what has transpired in council and stuff, because if you look at council the way our form of government is, just like each council member can place things on an agenda so that it can be discussed, the mayor can too.
Right.
So I give you an example. When the trash and garbage truck started going south on us, because we could get trash and garbage picked up. If the mayor wanted to say, he is responsible for bringing it to the council and getting it fixed. What would have had to take place is the mayor would have placed this item on the agenda for discussion and then made a motion to direct the city manager to do A, B, C, D, and the council approves it. Or he can say, what are we going to do? And then once it's decided, then they vote on it. But anytime the mayor initiates something, then the mayor can be accredited for it.
Right. Yes. Let's try to talk about some particulars of that. Right. And I'm looking on your food for thought. Right. And let's talk about the infrastructure. Can you tell us about the infrastructure and if the current mayor is responsible for that, or did they the $50 million bond?
The infrastructure is something that he talked about what they have done. Well, the street program was in place prior to the mayor being elected. We was in the process of getting the bond approved when he's coming on. So actually, the mayor had nothing to do with that. It was already in place and it was moving. Now that the mayor came on board in 2019. Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, 19.
So what the mayor can say is, now I'm on board. What have we accomplished in infrastructure? So let's talk about that. If citizens really want to know what has been accomplished during this period of time, let's say streets. We had a $50 million fund passed so that we could get streets fixed. During the last 2 years, we haven't spent the amount of money we should have because we allocated $10 million a year, and it's like almost 2 years behind with the spending of the money. So if the mayor was involved and understood that, at some point in time, you would have seen an item on the agenda for discussion, whereas the mayor says, why are we not fixing streets? Why are we not spending this money? He would not wait till somebody give a briefing and somebody talk. And when I say the mayor, I'm talking about all the other council members, because they could have done it too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But when people want to accept credit for something that's being done by staff, manager, and council, as an individual, you can't accept the credit unless you are the initiator of it. So if he wants to talk about streets, then he needs to be the one to say, we've fallen approximately 2 years behind, but I've never brought it to the council to do nothing about it. So if he really wanted to be concerned, that's what he could have done. Not only him, every councilman sitting on council, but he's included. So if he wants to say, we fixing streets, no. You need to say we fell behind. And just like all other members of council, I never brought it to the agenda. I think the council member that has placed it on the agenda requesting something about streets have been Councilman Kinlaw. I think he requested
information
for presentations a couple of times.
Right.
But when you do the presentations, most of the time what they really ask for is not covered in the presentation. When they ask for what streets are completed, what streets have not been completed, how much money been spent, and how much money is left. You go back to all of the presentations, none of them address it specifically, because if you're going to say what streets are fixed, just name the street. If you're going to say what streets are left, you just name those streets. If you're going to talk about how much money has been spent, you just say how much been spent in this district, that district, and how much each district having left. And when you do that, then now somebody can track it. Somebody can see where we stand. What's the progress? What's the status? how far are we along? But right now, to claim that, we've done so much for you and you've done so much, then you really have to show. And there's nothing to show there. In fact, all of a sudden you would want the stuff to really come out on the facts, like we're talking about tonight, because it's not a good thing. We talk about sewage. We got sewage backing in people's houses.
Right.
Well, in 2020, we had Dr. Haney went to the refineries and got money and stuff, and they donated money and equipment, and we bought equipment to do pipe bursting.
Right, yeah, I was just about to say that.
And the council awarded 3 more positions to the city managers, 3 additional positions to hire 3 people and train these 3 people to do just pipe bursting.
Wow.
And that's all they're supposed to do on a daily basis. So we could start replacing some of these older, dilapidated sewage lines, starting with worst first. Well, that's not exactly being done with a dedication toward that anymore. So,
right.
That tells you that the council, and to include the mayor, have not followed up to ensure that what the previous council had established and approved, right, is being done, because if it was being done, then we'll be farther along.
And let me ask you.
Then we move.
Let me go and ask you something right there, Mr. Doucet. Let me go and ask you something right there on that one. On that particular issue with the pipe bursting, right? The city manager understands that directive that was given to him from the previous council, right? Where, in your opinion, where did you blame the fault there? With the city manager or the council that's supposed to continue it out, or the city manager that knows the job that was supposed to be executed for the city?
Well, see, I put that blame on the council.
Yeah, me too.
You see, because when the council issues directive to the manager, or the council approves actions that the city manager and the staff has requested, once the council has approved it, then they're supposed to execute it.
Right.
But in the city manager's role, every day he's got these things coming at him. Every day. So it's pretty hard for him to monitor every aspect of it if you don't have departmental directors that are going to stay on top of it, right?
Right.
So when you're coming in every day, if you're putting out fires and stuff, you're not really allowing yourself to go back and see what we should be doing and how you're doing it. And I guess when you're not covering it in your staff meeting on these priorities, then that's how these things get put on the desk and nobody's moving on them. But now, that's where elected officials comes in. Once we pass those actions, we know that it's for the benefit of our citizens and our city. At some point in time, when we look at these things out there and we don't see as much progress as we think we should, that's when we go back and place this on the agenda. And when we place it on the agenda, then the manager and staff have to now answer to us and let us know why we're not. Because if it's something that you don't have that's preventing you from doing it, if we know, we're going to give it to you. But if you haven't done it, but you have everything it takes to do it, then that is the time we're going to issue a directive. We want it done. So it's like us ensuring that what we do and what we say is done in that order. So the city manager is responsible initially, but after a period of time, if it's not done, it's the council responsibility to now hold him accountable. And the way you do that, you place it on the agenda and you bring it up and you discuss it and you come to a consensus on how we're going to proceed in order to make this happen. And, you know, he talked about the money that we have for these drainage projects, these main drainage projects. Well, we approved 4 major projects probably three and a half years ago, 4 years ago. Probably about 4 years ago, we approved the 4 projects. Well, we've gotten $32 million approved to do the project. Well, they say, well, $32 million is not enough. Okay, so you want to get more money, that's fine. But why haven't you done at least 2 of the projects with the money that's already approved?
Absolutely.
That money has been approved over 2 years now. But yet, we haven't done any of the major projects. And here we are, we're getting close to going into another hurricane season.
Right, and also on that, it seems like the same thing with the drainage projects you're talking about, and also the streets. Now they're actually deciding on which streets to do it again. It seems like there's a lot of talk about putting money in certain departments and no action on anything.
Well, that's why when you look at the council, and when I say council, always remember, I talk mayor too, because
right, yes,
in our form of government, he's part of council.
Absolutely,
okay?
He's a part of it, absolutely,
and he just presides over, but he's part of council.
Right.
But, when things are not being done, somebody should recognize it and just put it on the agenda for discussion. And once it get out there, trust me, everybody gonna say, okay, what we gotta do to fix this? And that's how you get people back on track. Okay? Another thing that what was said at the mayor's State of the City address, he addressed the new health department clinic
just about to
facility,
yes, sir.
Approved. Okay. That was approved before the mayor got elected. In fact, when the mayor got elected, the mayor thought, I guess this was a strong mayor city, because he said, no, that's not what we want to do.
Right, I remember that. Yes, sir.
And he tried every way to hold it up, but the fact of the matter is, it had already been passed by council, and it was a done deal. And him being a mayor, you don't get the opportunity to bring this back and ask for us to reconsider it, because you wasn't on the winning team when it was passed.
Right.
So, once you find out that you can't do it, then that's fine. But what I'm surprised at, before I left council, which is over a year ago, we actually approved over $4 million to retrofit the building on 9th Avenue that we had gotten for the new location. We approved the money for the building. And till this day, as we speak, the building has not been touched.
Wow. So it seems like we actually approving money to do things, but it's not being done, right?
We approving money. We have money approved. You wouldn't believe that we just not getting done, and it's the council's responsibility at some point for the council to say, hey, what's going on with this? No, let's get with it. Let's get it done. And then it'll get done, and because the council is in the, say, okay and approve things, and then just forgetting about it. You can't forget about it. And because you can't just worry about it, you got other business you got to continue to do. What happens is anytime that is mentioned, then you look at where we are. And if you don't know where we are, or if you hear citizens complaining, then you got to go back and put this on the agenda and say, hold on, let's go back and address it. We talked about this, or we done this. Why is it not done, city manager? So that's what we elect people to do. And, although you may be new, you still should remember what's done. Now, we have council members who was there when we got the money for the streets, and they understand the streets program. But they have to understand it's your responsibility to ensure that the streets are being done in your district. I've heard them say that, well, we do bids and design during the wintertime, the weather during the winter, you can't do streets. That's unheard of.
Right.
Unless it's snow, it's flooded, when the sun come out and it's dry, you should be able to do streets.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's no such thing as a season for doing streets.
No, absolutely.
Streets is based on the weather. If it's good weather, you do streets.
Right, and temperature, yes, sir.
So, we have where the staff is responsible for executing these things and the manager is responsible for overseeing it. But when things are not done, it's the responsibility of the council as a whole. And I don't mean because this wasn't done, it was the mayor's fault for not putting on the agenda. But what I'm saying, the mayor can't say that we done this and it was good.
Right.
No, it's not done. In fact, you haven't been a good steward of ensuring that it got done after it was approved. And it's not done now, so why are you telling us this is what you're... So when people are campaigning, the people that have not served in that capacity, you have to listen to what they're saying, and if they're understanding how they're going to have to go about working and get this done. If they do, there's pretty much a good chance that they know how to work it. They'll get in and they'll do some good. Now, the person that's in there, when it's time to be reelected, you have to look at them and say, how well have they done with performing their duties? Now, the mayor has additional duties, and they are written in the charter. The first one that is written in the charter is to preside over council meetings. Now, in order to preside over council meetings, the citizens should understand that the meetings have to be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act.
Right.
And that act is strictly to ensure that what you do is transparent. Citizens can see. So that's why this law exists, to make sure that when you discuss and doing things, you're doing it transparent. Citizens know what you're doing. Citizens hear. Citizens have an opportunity to comment if they choose, because every item that you place on an agenda that you're going to vote on, you have to allow citizens the opportunity to comment on that item before you vote if they choose. So that's why it's so important that the person that presides over the meeting conduct and ensure that the meetings are done in accordance with this, so that there be transparency. That is the responsibility of that person. That person is also responsible for ensuring that that meeting is conducted at the time, the place, and the date that they put out to the general public. And that means start meetings on time. And that means ensuring that they're not canceled or rescheduled unless there's a reason that citizens will readily understand. But just because it's going to be convenient for council members, that is not the reason for canceling and rescheduling meetings. Because those are the dates that are put out at the beginning of every year for the whole year. So citizens can know when you're going to be having meetings and conducting business. So they can schedule to attend. They know how the meeting's going to be. And, things may come up where you may have to cancel and reschedule.
Right, absolutely.
But this last year, we've had more meetings canceled and rescheduled than probably in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I seen it. I was surprised when I seen all those cancellations.
Sure, it's been so bad that some people know that it's supposed to be a meeting, and they're like, are they going to have the meeting?
Yeah.
Because they don't want to go up, or they don't want to go. They find out that the meeting been canceled because they didn't look at it on the on the web page. And above all, what's most disrespectful is when citizens are sitting in the chambers at the time and date that you say you will start the meeting, and you don't start the meeting, but you have a quorum there. Council members are sitting down ready. The person presiding is walking around talking, but it's his responsibility to call the meeting to order. But citizens wait. So citizens have to be able to judge the mayor currently on how he presided over the meeting. Now, the second part of that presiding over meetings is you have to be able to keep order so that the meeting can move along smoothly and in the least amount of time it takes to take care of the business. What that means is no unnecessary talking and staying with only the items on the agenda. And one of the main things that you have as a tool is to use Robert Rules of Order. Now, the city of Port Arthur, like most organizations, have adopted Robert Rules of Order as the basis for conducting the meeting.
And I got a quick question on when you say have order, is that controlling the meeting, telling a person they can't speak when you don't want them to speak, anything like that? Can you kind of clarify that for us?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. When you say Robert Rules of Order, then it tells you how the meeting will be conducted. How will you get the item from item to item? And the person that's presiding over it, over the meeting, does not have the authority to do and conduct the meeting as they choose. They must follow, one, the Open Meeting Act, and they must conduct the meeting in accordance with the way Robert Rules of Order says that you will take your motions and all this. You should never speak. When the mayor says so-and-so, when he recognizes one person to speak, that person has the floor to speak. That person should not be interrupted until they are complete and they are through speaking, and no one else should speak, to include the mayor. So the only time that person can be interrupted, there must be a point of order. And any member of the council can say point of order, right, and then make a statement on why they feel we should not continue, or why that should stop, or we should move on. But it's a point of order. That's why it's important that the person who presides over understand how to stop somebody from talking. Okay? And as far as recognizing, once you recognize the person, you're giving the person the flow. And Robert Rules of Order and most things you read will tell you the person that presides over a meeting, not count any meeting, should speak last. And if they speak, only if necessary do they speak. And if they choose to speak, they should speak last as not to influence the vote of the body. Right. So if the mayor chooses to speak, he should always speak last. And if he chooses, if it's not really necessary, he shouldn't speak. But to stop someone from speaking without saying point of order, or not calling on somebody because he feels that we don't need to talk about this no more. He doesn't have that authority, and he's not conducting the meeting properly. And that's what caused chaos sometimes, whereby somebody says, well, I want to talk. Then you get to this debate and stuff, and you don't have order. Okay?
Right.
So when people want to look at that duty of preside over meetings, the candidates that are running for mayor, they have no clue. That's just like taking a chance, okay? But
yes, sir,
the person that has been doing it You can look at the meetings and tell if they done well in that job of doing that. And that's one of the duties. Another duty is act as a liaison between council and manager, and see that the manager is carrying out the directives of council and doing and following codes, ordinance, policies, procedures, laws, state and federal.
Right.
That's what the mayor is supposed to do, because she should be a city hall more than council member. Therefore, it's his duty, as in the charter, to act as a liaison. And they said always working through
Yes.
the city manager.
Right.
And what that means is he works through the city. He doesn't tell people what to do. He goes through the city manager. And if council says we want these projects done and we approve them, right? If he sees they're not doing them, then the first thing you should do is really go sit down and talk to the manager and say, manager, why are we not doing this? We've already said that's what we want it done, and why is it not happening? Well, if the manager gives him a response about it, he's not going to get right on it and it's going to get fixed, then his next choice is to put it on the agenda and bring it before the council and let the council know, hey, we passed this and we approved it, but there's nothing getting done. I spoke with the manager, but I do believe that council needs to issue a directive so that we get this done. That's what it means by being a liaison. It doesn't mean you tell the manager what to do. You watch and see what he's doing, and if he's not carrying out what he should or not following the law, then you talk to him. If he doesn't agree, then you bring it to council so that we could correct and fix this. But in order to oversee him, to make sure he follows policies, procedures, and orders, you gotta do it too. So when people are bringing out things that he does to violate ordinance or code or law, how can you be the person that's supposed to be the one that's watching over this for council
Right.
and working with the managers to make sure everybody is following it if you're not? You can't have two sets. One for everybody, and then you do what you want. It says act as a liaison to ensure these things are being done.
Absolutely.
And that the manager is enforcing the ordinance and all this. And if you take a look at things that have been brought up that the current mayor do in that area of a duty and responsibility, you'll find out that, hey, is it worthy of being elected again to perform that duty? Because at some point in time, people need to understand what is it. It says the mayor will be the head of and spokesperson of the city and perform ceremonial functions, okay?
Right.
So what are those? Well, they're like if someone have an event, they invite the mayor to be a guest speaker. Or they're going to want city officials present at their event. They're going to ask that the mayor come as a special guest, at the head table.
Or probably like a ribbon cutting.
I'll finish. Somebody opening a new business in the city.
Right.
They want city officials. They normally want the mayor to be there to cut the ribbon.
Right.
Now, the Chamber of Commerce, every new business, they will invite all council members. They will send an invitation to all council members and the mayor to attend, with the mayor being given the choice to cut the ribbon with his invitation. Well, for 2.5 years, you've hardly ever seen it. You've been seeing it like a lot lately, but then you got to ask yourself, why we haven't seen it for the whole time.
Right.
So citizens got to now take a look at, when they say your duty is being a spokesperson for the city and in the aspect of ceremonial, then you got to take a look at how have the mayor done that. When you say a spokesperson, when the mayor conducts an interview or the mayor conducts a news conference, they saying he is the head person for our city. He represents the city. So what do you have to consider when you talk about how well he do that? You got to take a look at, one, how is he dressed? Okay, is he dressed to represent all of us? Okay, how does he speak? Is he speaking so that it's audible, is understandable, and is it in what you expect somebody to speak up that's speaking on your behalf?
I'm the mayor of the trio.
Take a look at, what did he say? Was he prepared? Did he research the information? Did he prepare on what he was going to say? This is what is considered in that. So when citizens talk about what the mayor is supposed to do, that's what you electing the mayor to do, those things. You're not electing the mayor to run our city. So if you understand what the mayor is supposed to do, then you go back and take a look at what the current mayor has done. And then you look at the candidates when they're talking, can they do these other things, if they were given the opportunity? And above all, when you do the evaluation of yourself on these duties, if you know what the duties are, you done looked at the charter, you don't have to believe Doucet and nobody else. Look at the charter. You look at those duties. And the last duty it says in the charter, anything in line with the office that the council select. So that means the council can actually give him additional duties.
Yeah.
That's what the last one says. If the council feel that this is in line with what a mayor would do, guess what? They give the mayor that responsibility. That's what the last one said. So if citizens understand that, they need to understand the mayor in this form of government is, one, he's your face. He is the face of the city. That's it. Two, he's the one that's supposed to be around City Hall a little bit more often to see if the manager and staff is doing what the policies, procedures, ordinance, and stuff state. And also ensuring that these issues or actions that the council approved are being carried out. And if they're not, then he's the key person. He's the first person online that should come up and say, it ain't being done. Hey, y'all, we need to get this, come to a discussion here. We need to decide how to proceed because it ain't moving. You see, so it's very important, and if citizens don't understand that, we're going to continue going down the road we had in the past. Keep electing someone because of popularity or because someone says, oh, I think he's the person. Well, yeah, you think you're the person because you know the person. You probably figure if he gets elected, I could call him and, hey, that's my buddy. Well, good for you. But what good is it for this city?
As a whole, right.
As a whole, what good? And not only that, but if you really know our form of government, he don't have no authority to make decisions. So if you call him, let me give an example. Let's say I call the mayor and say, Mayor, they didn't pick up my trash today. Right. If he's doing his duty, he will say, okay, have you talked with the city manager? They say no. Say, well, I tell you what. Let me give you the city manager's number and you give him a call. And if he doesn't help you, then here's my number. Just call me back and I'll go and ask him what is the problem.
Or probably even further than that, the department heads, right?
Well, the thing is, a council member, as members of council, we could call departments. We could ask any employee. If you are employed by the city of Port Arthur, any council member can go and ask you questions.
Oh, okay.
We can ask questions, but we can't tell you to do this or do that. We can't give you orders, and we can't give you directives.
Right.
Not collectively, meaning if all of us go down there and tell you to do something, the charter says we can't. Not individually or collectively. That's why when a council member gets called by a constituent, the council member should call the city manager. See, because when you call a city manager, then the city manager has to check into it and then give you a response. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And that way he can tell you, he could check and see, okay, then the trash picked up, did you pass that? He gonna check, he tell us correct, find out if somebody passed. Then the word come back down and say, okay, well, they must have missed, we'll send a truck out there. But the fact of the matter is, our form of government says that we do not dictate. So if you call in a member of council to include the mayor, we just going to call the manager or a departmental director, and I don't deal with the department. I'd rather call the manager because now he's got to come back to me, and I want to know what the decision is, because if I'm not happy with that decision, I could bring it before council now. But the fact of the matter is, I'm one of his bosses. So if he doesn't do what I think he should do, then I'll bring it to the full council and let the council know, hey, I talked to the man about this, and he did not think it was worth it. So I think that we need to direct the manager do A, B, C, D. So you see, a lot of time when you elect somebody because you know them, and that's not just being a mayor now, that could be a councilman. You vote for somebody to be a councilman because you think, because they're your friend, your church member, that you can call them and you're going to get a special treatment, you're going to get them to do something. It still goes through the same process. Still got to go back to the manager and staff. And the manager make those final decisions. So you see, that's why sometimes I just get kind of like disappointed, because citizens really don't understand. You calling your council member, we don't tell people what to do.
Yeah.
All we do is inquire. And if they're not doing right, or they're not following policy, then we can address it with the manager, so the manager can get them in line. And if the manager thinks that it is part of the procedures, but it's not benefiting citizens, now we can bring it before the full council and get it changed. You see, so the government is not hard to figure it out, and citizens ought to understand, when you elected somebody, understand what their roles are and what their duties are. Don't think they just can do something if you call them. That ain't gonna work that way. And now that I said how it's supposed to work, David, let me tell you.
Right.
That's what creates a lot of problems when council members and mayors get out their lane and start trying to tell subordinates of the city man, call them and tell them, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Because sometimes these staff people are intimidated by council members and mayor, okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they feel obligated to do it, but what it's doing is disrupting them from their scheduled work, and it doesn't make the system work the way it should work. And that's why I mention that, because I know I explained first how the system works, but then now I'm saying, those who do not follow the system are not helping the city overall. Somebody getting a favor done, but at the expense of somebody else not getting it done. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so citizens just have to understand, if you want the city to move forward and improve, you got to let it operate the way it's done, and you got to get people who going to follow these policies and procedures and not try to do what they want to do, and stuff. Council members should not be caught up in scandal or stuff like that. Not if they stand in their lane, because their lane don't put them over there,
Right.
You representing people. When people call you, you say, okay, you go out, you see what their problem is, and if you find out that the problem they have is considered someone else, and or the problem they have, the city is not responsible, you have to be able to explain that to them. And if you can't explain them to them because you don't know, tell them, I'll get back with you. Then you go get the information so that you can explain it to the citizens. And then that's the way that's policy is procedure. Because sometimes people are not going to be happy with the answer you give them.
Oh, yeah.
But
absolutely.
then again, you should not be trying to say something that somebody want to hear, knowing all the time it ain't going to be nothing done about it.
Now,
that's not the case. But that's what some people may choose. It's easy to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get right on it. Then they just go in. They don't do nothing. If you ever call them and say, yeah, well, we couldn't do this. Well, you knew that the first time. Why didn't you say it?
Right. Yeah.
So, we just have to try to get more knowledgeable of what are the actual duties and why do we elect these people to certain positions. And if we elect them to that position, we should know what their duties are, not what someone tells you or what they tell you. Know for yourself, because what is telling you a lie.
Right, and for the last 5 minutes, why don't you kind of tell people what's your opinion on what some of the things they should look for in a candidate that's asking for your vote, kind of like in your food for thought.
Well, first of all, the first thing that I think is very is that the person is a person who has shown an interest in being a public servant, and maybe done things in other area within the community, in the church or something, but someone who have served or shows a willingness to serve. A person who have character, a person who has integrity, a person who is honest, and a person who believes in being truthful. Because at the end of the day, that person is going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. And at the end of it all, you're going to feel better when you find out that the person did tell you the truth, although you didn't accept it at the time. But just reassuring that the person did do right, you're going to be able to move past the personal issue there of the person told you what you did. The other thing is a person that is financially sound, okay? If a person is dependent on this money that they get for serving, then how can you actually say that they're not doing it for the money? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And a person that is not financially sound being placed in an elected position such as mayor or council, I can tell you from personal experience, you can be easily influenced to go and fight for something for somebody because they're going to do something for you.
Right.
And I can tell citizens as a council member for 5.5 years, they will come at you, and some of the key things they'll do with you, they want to take you to lunch. Okay, that's the most lunch. Well, if a person's not financially sound, they hustling lunches.
Right,
okay?
right. So you're saying they actually come at you and try to give you certain favors for your influence on council. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and a perfect example. Let me say something that you and the citizens that are listening can identify with.
Right.
We've heard a lot about fixers who want to sell the property on Pleasure Island. Because we have some investor that's talking about building a $60 million investment over there, a hotel, maybe a restaurant, maybe a hotel, and maybe houses, maybe, okay?
Right.
But they willing to invest, right? Well, the fact of the matter is, why haven't this person come before council and explain that to the council so citizens who are listening can also know what they want to do for our city?
That's a good question.
No.
And also hold them accountable if they don't do it or they have some type of deviation from it.
Well, here's the thing. Now you get to know if council making the right decision.
Absolutely.
You see, that's the key about having them come before the council. Citizens hear. So if council is making a decision not in their best interest, then citizens will know, okay? Because this person that come before you, they just told you why they what they want to do, but they telling you what they want there. What are citizens here? The citizens can know whether it's BS or whether they want to engage in this. But to say that someone has gone to the step of actually putting property on the ballot to be for citizens to approve them selling it to so-called some investor that wants to do it, well, who have they talked to?
Absolutely.
How did this get to the council?
And it should have
been... How did the council get to discuss this?
Right. It should have been through the Open Meetings Act, right? It should have been in an open meeting.
It evidently, somebody had lunch, somebody gave a presentation. Oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Wow.
Well, guess what? The person listens. For one thing, you don't even know, because you don't know how tax and stuff is figured and stuff. You don't know what the incentives are. You said that you think it's a bright idea. So instead of telling the person to come before the full council, so all council members can hear, so the citizens can hear, because if it's not a good deal, the citizens now got a say in it. But we done went this far with this so-called anonymous person, and you wondering, how did this come about? Well, it came about because you got somebody going to lunch with somebody fed them this big old thing because they got this. But at the same time, is that what the citizens would agree to? How can they comment on it if you're going through all these actions and stuff and you're going to bring it? You know, you don't even want nobody to know why. Nobody can know. So that's why it's so important that the person have integrity, a person being honest. And although you buy a person a meal, it doesn't mean you have to go and try to present what they want to the council and sell the council on it without citizens know. And the reason I can say that, David, when I first got on council, new council member, I had gotten that when I went to newly elected training about be careful of people doing that. So when people called me and they say, hey, we need to talk to you. Now, the first thing they tell me, I heard you the person I should talk to. Right then I knew it was BS, okay? I knew it was BS right then.
Yeah.
Why should you worry about who I am? Okay? And I said, and I listened to them. Some things I thought was good. What I told them, no, I think it's okay. But you need to bring it before the full council. Sometimes they would come, sometimes they wouldn't. Now, some that I know was nothing but Sam, I would tell them, I can see where it benefits you, but I don't see where it benefits the citizen in the city.
There you go.
But I'm only one vote. Bring it to the full council and let them decide. They would never count. So when you have somebody saying somebody going to do this or want to do this in our city, but they haven't come before council, how can you entertain that and you now going to come and represent them? That's not what you were elected to do. You were elected to represent the people, not them.
There you go. Yes, sir.
So that's a lot of what's going on, and that's why a lot of times you don't hear discussions with this council, because they're discussing a lot of things in closed session that they really shouldn't. And therefore, when it comes in the form of a resolution, it's any question. Nobody have a question because it's already been discussed and agreed upon, so all they do is vote. So the citizens are left now with, well, what it was about.
Yeah.
You know? So It's something you got to get somebody who understands how it should be done, cannot be easily influenced by people, or they won't accept gifts or things in order to go and try to get something done for people. And most of the time you find people who say are not exactly financially sound, if they're doing it for the check, they sure gonna do something else to get a little extra, okay?
Yes, sir.
Especially when it comes to the meals, because my famous thing when I got up from somebody when I meet with them, I say I pay for my own meal,
Right.
Some of them insisted, I said, I'll pay it. I've seen time when I paid for the meal.
Yeah.
But if you got a person that's not financially sound, you're putting the person in a vulnerable position, being an elected official like on council or the mayor, because it's like inviting a thief into your home and then telling the thief, hey, I got to run to the store. I'll be back in 30 minutes.
Yeah, just go ahead and watch the safe over here and the gun collection over here and the silverware and the good china over here.
You got stuff in your drawer, but hey, you say, I'm going to be gone about 30 minutes.
Yeah, clean out the house, yeah.
Yeah, so the guy got 30 minutes, so if you're not careful with getting somebody that's financial, the other thing that they should look at is, what has this person done up to this point in life? Have they worked? If they worked, what kind of job did they do? What type of experience and background did they have that can translate to helping here on council? Because if you look at cities around, most of the time you see cities around you, when you look at their council members, they may have doctors, lawyers, engineers, people who graduate. Now, everybody don't have to have no degree, okay? But you may have a businessman, successful business guy. Well, he understands business, so he know how to take care of business. So what have they done that would translate into what they're going to be doing? That's a key thing. So you got to look at the people that are asking for your vote, and you just have to understand that your vote may be for a friend, a family member, a church member, a classmate, but at the end of the day, that vote will not help you, will not help the city. And if it doesn't help the city, it's going to impact on you eventually.
Yes, sir. And I kind of want to go ahead.
So that's the thing they need to keep in mind.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to go ahead and give it the last word over here. We want to kind of go ahead and wrap it up. And, we can always do a part 2 to this if we need to. Want to keep the time frame down on it a little bit and break it up into some smaller parts. And yes, sir, brother, Can you give us the last word on what you want to let everybody know?
I want to let everybody know this is the last word. If you want to ensure that we have the best opportunity for success, get off the rear end and go and vote. Right now, this city has been controlled the last 10 years by special interest groups with X amount of votes. If people go and vote, that vote will be based on a majority of people and not the special interest groups. Get out and vote. That's my last word.
Oh, yes, sir. Couldn't have said it no better. And the only thing I can just add to that, get out and vote. And when you have to vote again, make that second trip out there to vote. Hey, and I do appreciate you being a special guest over here, sir. We always love it when you come on out here and give us some of your expertise on city government and other things in life. And I want to say thank you very much, sir. And everybody else, take it easy. Until the next time, peace.
All right. Bye-bye.